Okay, so like I said, the whole aim of today is to actually be able to fathom, to be able to understand, to be able to go a bit deeper in what it means to have my own self-respect, to enjoy myself, to love myself, to go into that level of nurturing my own powers and my own abilities, and then going into what it means to have that respect for other people, to have that respect for everyone in my world as a whole. We're not talking about having to transform the world, like I said, but actually transforming my world internally and externally as well. Before I keep talking too much, because I love talking, Myriam is going to continue with the panel. So, take it away.
Thank you. So I would like also to welcome everyone. Very happy to see you all here in this very sunny summer-like afternoon, and I will say well done to all of you. And so I am very quickly going to introduce myself. Myriam, I'm originally from France, so I hope you will be able to catch every single word that I am talking. But the good news is I have been a UK resident for the last 11 years, so that's a good point on me. And I've been with the organization for also the same time I've been here in this country. And I would like to now introduce also our panelists. So Farah Mohammoud, who is a social entrepreneur and co-founder of UPress. So it's a new organization that was started in 2010, I believe. And it's basically an organization that is giving the voice to young people. As you may have noticed that young people have not always been given good image in the media. So the organization is aiming at getting the most out of young people and empowering young people, and hopefully Farah will tell us more about it. Then we have Soraya, who is an old friend of mine, actually. Soraya, who is originally, sorry Farah, I forgot to say also, Farah is from originally Somalia, and then he went to Kenya as he was young, and he came over in the UK for studies, and that was a little while back. Yes? 18. So he's been here a long time. So Soraya Ramjane, who is originally from Mauritius and who came here 12 years ago for studies. And Soraya is the chair of, in London, of the International Sufi School. And so I've been there, it's a lovely place. And so there's workshops happening there, there's been. And Soraya, I know, is promoting peace, because the aim of the organization is promoting peace in different countries. So there's France, there's Senegal, because I think the headquarters is in Senegal. So there's here in UK, Canada, Reunion, Mauritius, and South Africa. And so at the moment, within the school, there is an initiative that started in Senegal and that is being carried on here in the UK also, and that's Eco-Peace, and it's all originating from a little village in Senegal called Pout, or Peace Village. And so Soraya will hopefully tell us more about that. And the last panelist is also an old friend of mine, Patel, who is a commercial director of an IT in the IT sector and is mainly responsible for relationship development. And I've known Ash more in the setting of working with him for and with young people, young adults within the organization, and especially in the context of Choose Change Become retreats, and also retreats we've done in India in the headquarters. So Ash, I think you've been brought up, born in UK?
In the UK. In the UK. I lived in Africa.
Yes, I knew that bit, but
Southern Africa.
Okay, so before I start to open questions to the panels actually. I would like to open a question to all of you as well as the panelists, and just taking a few seconds to reflect on why is it that you came today and what attracted you most to the program. Was it the title? Was it because it was for young people? It may be obvious, but what was the main reason that you sacrificed your day out with friends, your Sunday, to come here? So just for a few seconds. And I'd like to ask Farah, what is it in the title that interested you most, or what came to mind when you received the invitation coming to this program?
I guess the first thing that interested me was the title itself, The Power of Unity, because I work with a lot of young people, and a lot of the work that we do is to engage young people to work together and to see some of the solutions are possible through collaboration. So straight away I thought it would be a good opportunity to connect with the audience and to be some of the panelists on board as well, so I was straight away drawn into that.
Thanks. Farah?
Yeah, I think it's a lovely initiative. There's so much need for young people to get together around such good initiatives as this event is, and just to be able to talk openly about our own potential. I think that's very great.
Yeah, I feel the same way actually. I went to a conference recently, and this was an environmental conference. The interesting thing about this conference was it was a group of organisations coming together, young people. So it was the European Youth Climate Movement. So this gathering of individuals representing organisations are supposed to come together and do stuff together. So for 5 years they've been coming together. They have wonderful conversations, but actually achieve very little at the end of it. So the inspiration for me came from just watching the way they operate and the way they engage. And what I found was that actually everyone seems to be engaging at an organisational level rather than an individual level. So that I saw an immediate connection to obviously the event today, and I felt there's a big need for people just to break down these barriers of organisation, of cause, and start coming together in order to work together and start achieving things. So I felt very strongly about that.
Thank you, Ash. So my question also was, why did we choose the power of us? Why did we choose unity? And I was thinking that as young people, actually, at times we can feel completely disempowered. We can feel isolated. We can feel vulnerable. You know, there's lots of it can be social pressure, pressure from work, a lot of expectations, lots of demands, and so there's so many things, the stress of, you know, life in the cities. We may not all have started in a good way, so for one of the participants that was the inspiration, but it may not be the case for everybody. And so I feel there is a need for young people especially to belong, to feel that they belong. And what I've observed is that it's important to be part of a group and to identify oneself to a group. So may it be at work, may it be in a volunteering activity, may it be at university, at school, but there is this need of togetherness. So always there can be that feeling of vulnerability and not feeling empowered. So I would like to ask you, who was your inspiration during the icebreaker?
For me, it was quite tough because one source of inspiration has always been my mother. She brought us here. She brought my family here with much support from everyone else, and we had to adjust to the British society. So I always looked at her because she sacrificed a lot to give us a good education and a better life. And I guess growing up as a teenager, I probably read a lot of books, and one person that caught my eye that I looked up to at the time, and I still do look up to, is Malcolm X. So I think I went with Malcolm X would probably be easier in activity to guess. So I went with that.
Same, I went for someone who could be easy to guess, and I went for Gandhi, but who also is one of the peacemakers whom we studied as part of research we did on peace and non-violence. We studied a range of peacemakers. We purposefully chose them from different eras, from different cultural and religious backgrounds, to be able to show objectively that peace is about being human simply, and not about belonging to such country or to such religion or to such spirituality or philosophy. And so yes, Gandhi is a great inspiration, and I can say that what we are doing with eco-peace is just in a small way trying to do what he did in India with the cotton and the sword. So I'm going deeper in it as we go, but basically, yeah, Gandhi.
I actually skipped out and then came back in, so I can't miss that bit. But if I had to pick somebody, it would probably be the current head of the organisation as it stands. I mean, it's a relatively easy decision or an easy choice for me to make, just because I've probably had quite a lot of sustenance from that individual. So having had the opportunity to see someone like that operate, you know, you can't help but kind of see them as an inspiration, you know, and see them as motivation for yourself. So yeah, that would have been my choice. But I didn't really participate, I'm sure.
What's her name?
Daddy Janky. So I don't know whether most of you or some of you have ever had the chance and opportunity to come and see her speak, but she is exceptional. Just being in her presence will be able to see that someone's really worked on themselves, and I think when someone has worked on themselves at that level, they resonate a certain vibration, and you don't have to exchange anything, everything's in the eyes, you know, that sort of individual.
So I think it's important from a young age to have an inspiration, to have someone to look up to and to be inspired and motivated to do something on our own. And it takes time to develop something in our heart, and then to find something to do. That's what, you know, we are trying to do from beginning, is searching, looking for where is my space, how can I express myself and manifest my goodness, what I would like to contribute. So I would like to ask you also, what was your inspiration as at a younger point in your life, at the earliest point in your life, and how did it develop to where you are today? Anyone can start, no pressure.
If you picked.
Okay, Soraya. My old friend.
I guess as we grow up as adolescents, one of my role models was Mariah Carey or Celine Dion. But at the age of 14, I met with the current head of the International Sufi School, Sheikh Ali. Sheikh Ali is, so he's the current head of the International Sufi School, was originally a teacher in mathematics and anthropology, and born and lived in Senegal until the age of around, in his 30s, he received, we'll say, the mission to go to Reunion Island, and that's where I went and met him when I was 14. So in Reunion Island they had a center, and there was songs, and there was workshops and exhibitions, so we were always going there. So it was really something new for me, because I was born in a Muslim family, but it was not really practicing. Even the grandfather was always saying, you know, you have to do this, you have to do this. We were not rebellious, but there was nothing in the heart to inspire. And I think as a youth, you need something to passionate you. Your emotions are very raw, so you need something more than just you have to do this, you have to do this because you have to do this. Yeah. So when I met this group of people, it was a fun group of people. I love singing, so when I was hearing the song, it was a bit like bhajan. So we have our own songs, and I was like enthralled. And at the end of this year, we went to Senegal, and there with the drums, and they have a particular style of singing. So I must say this was my first inspiration, which caught my heart, if I can say. It was not a philosophy, I was not adhering to an idea or to a, no, just something that captivated my heart at this particular moment. And I think this helped me a lot throughout adolescence, because, you know, you're in search of so many things as an adolescent. And within this group of dynamic people, I was able to go to the United Nations, to go to Senegal and to South Africa and participate in the World Parliament of Religions, you know, different activities which I probably never would have done if I just stayed at home, or, you know, just with a simple group of friends. So basically, that's it. I don't want to speak too much.
No, but did you did you feel when at that point when you were 14, did you ever think that you would go a long way and become like a good role model for others?
At this point, no. At this point, my only aim was to be able to walk in the footsteps of these people I was seeing. And it was not only Sheikh Ali, like there were heads of, as we call them, Dara, which is where we live in community. And the heads of Dara in Mauritius was a woman, so we went there and we spent a lot of time. So my aim at this point was just to be able to be a little bit like them. That's all. And just try every day to be a little bit like them, and to maybe be able to follow their instructions and be able to satisfy them in what they were asking from me, the responsibilities they were giving.
And how did it develop then to where you are at today? I'm curious to know.
I remember we were always having meetings, even when I was back in Mauritius. When I came here, you know, you have to be like this, so that tomorrow you can do this, tomorrow, you know, you will have a group of people, so you can, you know, be a... But I never took it seriously, so I was just, okay, but my only concern is just to work on myself and to be, as you were saying earlier, the best that I can. As long as I know that I've done the best that I can, that's all I can give. But gradually, life goes on, you become older and you find younger people around you, so I guess you do become sort of a role model for them. But I never consciously think of myself or ever thought of myself, okay, I'm doing this because I want to be a role model.
So it wasn't planned.
No.
Ash, you'd like to answer the question?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yes. So the question is, as a young individual, did you feel inspired? Did you have inspirations around you that that you wanted to become someone, or did you have a dream to fulfill?
It's interesting, actually. I think as a young individual, I was probably influenced quite a lot by how I saw the world at that point. So largely led by my friend circles, and that kind of came from, I think sports was a big thing. So I used to be into basketball, so I had role models in basketball, you know, but I never really had, you know, like I look at my family now in completely different light. You know, I'll see them as role models. I'll see them as individuals that have qualities that I would absolutely, you know, love to develop within myself as well. But you don't see that when you're young. I certainly didn't. I mean, I can describe a role model I had as a teacher that kicked me out of school. You know, I remember going, you know, I'd failed my A-levels abysmally. I went into his office and I knew what he was going to say. He was going to say, sorry, I'm not going to let you back in here. But I remember that moment so clearly, and he was a role model. I look back at him now and I think, you know what, that's the best thing you've ever done to me in my life, you know. So I probably see role models in my life that have pushed me to make the right decision. So I've just been up against it, I've done all of the wrong things without really realising or thinking, and when I get to a point where there's a bit of a train wreck, someone steps in and says, sorry, it's not this way, it's over there. So I needed to be broken in that way, I think, just to realise what I probably needed to do. So I had the role models of my superficial life, and then I had the role models of my real life, if that makes sense. So yeah, that was probably my journey.
And how did you move on from that time to where you are at now?
My luck, actually, than anything else. God knows how. It just happened, you know, at the right time, right place. You know, I got offered a job when I shouldn't have been offered a job, to be honest with you. I was reckless, careless. But it was what I needed. It was the opportunity I absolutely needed in order to just find myself. Because I was never academic, but I didn't realise this. You know, I'm sitting next to an A-class student that is my sister, and she's incredibly articulate, academic. You know, she can speak like 4 different languages, art, poetry, and there's me just next to her. I just could not do anything. I had no interest in any subject at school. So, but I never saw that, or I was never able to sit down with somebody and kind of work that out. And it was, I don't know how it worked out, but I just happened to meet someone, and he happened to be a mature student at the time. And I learned a lot from an individual like that, because I was given a second chance, if you like, at a college that finally decided to take me in. And I decided I needed to knuckle down. And it was that led me to just find myself through this job and just push myself in a different way. So I guess life has given me opportunities, and I've taken the right ones and not the wrong ones. Yeah.
Thank you, Ash. Farah, what about you? So what was your inspiration? Did you have any? And how did it develop to today?
It's a very, very good question, because just listening to you two, I was just reflecting back. Very fascinating stories you guys have. It's funny, like, you know, in terms of life, you never really can see where it's going to lead you in the future. But where you are at the present moment, if you look back, you can always see. If you took a different path, you'd be at a different place. So the reason why I say this is because remember when you're in school, and there's always one quiet kid that never says anything, but is always observing and pretty smart, but just never talks that much. But I was that kid. I had fear of speaking in public. And if you told me then that I would be here talking about the power of unity, at that time I would be like, shut up, bro. You don't know what you're talking about. Probably whisper, shut up. But it's funny, like, how life takes you on a path that you don't expect. The funny story is when I finished university, I graduated with a business degree with a 2-1. So I worked hard to get a good degree. I thought, great, this is a good opportunity. I'm going to take my mom with the last bit of student loan I've got left back to Kenya. We spent 6 weeks. I'd get in touch with my family and roots. I haven't seen them for almost 15 years since I left as a kid. So I thought, I'll go there, come back, you know, and start looking for work. Went there, I was completely overtaken by the hospitality, the generosity, the simple things in life that just makes people happy. They could have, the things that we take for granted here, it's amazing compared to how much little they have, and they're so happy. And I thought, wow, you know, once I'm back to the UK, if anything, to honour my family and their legacy, I have to work hard. I have to invest in my future, so I can give back to my family and support them. So when I came back to England, the first thing I was thinking is make money, get a good job. Boom, recession hits. As you know, a lot of graduates find it difficult to find work. And again, coincidence, fate, whatever you want to call it, but life has a way of taking you in a different direction. I came across a youth leadership program that had the chance to develop young leaders in the community, to give back to the community. As soon as I became involved with this competitive youth leadership program for young people, straight away there was something that was sparked there. And as soon as that light was sparked, I became more hungry for knowledge. I became more hungry in terms of social change, in terms of helping young people, in terms of helping those quiet kids in the student have a lot of potential, but they're never seen or heard of how can I give back to those kids? How can I help our community? So I guess you could say that was the point where I had a bit of inspiration and it started being reflected. That was fine.
Thank you. At this point, I would like to ask about the power of us and what you felt at the time. Like you say, if I would have mentioned power of us, then you would not even have, acknowledged me speaking to you. But now, when I say the power of us bringing a brighter future together, what can you say in terms of what does it take to bring power when working or collaborating with other people?
That's a really good question, actually. I think it's easy to say power comes from unity, but actually it's a lot more than that. I think it really comes down to us wanting to make a conscious effort to build bridges and relationships. And from my experience, it's just been that. I think, at work, you have to build successful relationships with people you work with in order to actually get things done. And I think there's building relationships to get things done, and then there's building relationships to really get to see the most from people and to help them grow. And I think I've always felt that I've wanted to see other people grow and develop. That's just been something I've always wanted to do. And I feel that that's probably been a big part of how I strive to see unity within anything I work in. So if I'm working with a core group of people, I want us to work together. I want us to, recognise each one's speciality and bring that forward. And I feel comfortable with that way of working. Other people feel comfortable kind of working in a different way, but I feel I can get the best out of people working in that way. And I think experience says that, certainly from my perspective, it certainly felt that people are responsive to that way of working much more. Because I think empowerment and this feeling of I don't need to lead anything, I don't need to take responsibility for anything. I just need to work together with people and we can achieve things. And I think when we adopt this attitude, and it is an attitude shift, when it goes from actually I don't want to take, from being in charge of something. There's a difference between being in charge and being responsible. And I feel, if I can take responsibility towards something and enable other people to take responsibility towards something, then I think we'll achieve success. And I think I've seen that success pan out, and it's been a learning curve. As my ego is kind of slowly being redefined. I've seen a change in myself in terms of what I want to achieve very clearly, with people, working in individuals, in groups, in teams. But, certainly in the early days it wasn't like that. It was kind of like, well, actually, I want to take charge because it's the easiest thing to do. When you're given a sense of responsibility within an organisation and a heavy sense of responsibility within an organisation, you actually want to get things done, and the easiest thing to do is stick the sledgehammer down, and just work your way through it. But you kind of realise actually that doesn't work. It doesn't work. It pushes people away. It creates disharmony. It creates a horrible culture. Actually, it just people. You're not going to build relationships. So I feel relationships are the key in order to and just starting someone, just building a bridge, trying to build a bridge with somebody, and never reacting, in an emotional way if you can help it. I think that's been the biggest thing.
Thank you. Soraya, can I ask you how within the organization, and if you could describe to us how the power of unity can manifest, but practically, like if you could give examples of the magic that is happening right now in your life, that you're making happen with your sister and with other members of the organization. So would you like to please give us a vision?
Well, what is happening today is, I think, the result of many years of non-power, if I can say it. Because before you actually reach a state where you are stepping up and you are, okay, you're dedicated now, that is the moment, you feel you can do the thing. So many moments of disbelief in yourself, of not thinking you're able, came about. And mainly, when I was in Mauritius before I came here, I was always part of a group. So you feel the drive of the group, you're in the group, you go out, you go along with the group. That is power. It's very important, especially when you're quite young. Then when I came here, you're no longer in that group. It's a different group, a smaller group, but sometimes no group at all. And you find yourself confronted to a different reality. Where is the group? Who is going to bring me along? I can no longer tag along with anyone else. So I have to look for something in myself quickly. And I think that's an experience which has been very useful, because an experience where there you are in the sea, you don't have anyone to hang on to, and you have to learn to swim. And I think that is the first step of developing power, if you would say so, or unlocking this potential. But it's also a shift, you were saying, a shift in my own consciousness. You know, it's a shift in my own consciousness, and I think that's the beginning of the power that unlocks itself within you. When your consciousness changes, that is the way that we have seen with the research we have done in the school. It all comes with an awakening shock, which can be a situation to which you didn't expect. It just, you know, like you were telling me you went to Kenya. It's something that just brought a new perspective to the way you could have been seeing your life. And then this brings a shift in the way you see yourself, and I think it brings also a change in the way you work with others, the way you relate with others. So it all starts with me, the change, and I think that's why Gandhi said, be the change you want to see. It all starts with me, then I see how this affects my relationship with someone else. My working relationship is very different, because it's fed from this new consciousness. So yeah, that's how gradually, even though sometimes we're a very small group, but a very small group of dedicated people. And currently the project we're working on is in collaboration with our headquarters in Senegal. So it's about, what we're doing in London is selling mangoes. So selling mangoes that are being grown naturally on the farm in Senegal, and bringing these mangoes here, not only to make Londoners taste quality mangoes, but also at the same time, while they are tasting the mangoes, to be able to talk to them about a more conscious way of trading, a more conscious way of being with the farmers, because we are ourselves the farmers now. So experiencing what it is to be at the source of things. And I think there's lots of debate about this, like our clothes that come from Bangladesh, you know. We see things here, they're very nicely packed and wrapped and presented. But where it comes from and the amount of work that it takes to do these things, and how cheap we are paying for them, and the number of intermediaries there are between those people and us, we are so unconscious, we just go and buy. We are just consumers. So what we are trying to get the buyers of Ecobis mangoes is to be conscious buyers. You know that what you are eating, what you're buying, where it comes from, who has been working on, how much work it takes to bring you this. Yeah, so little by little, it's happening. And last year we saw 1.5 tons of mangoes in 2 weeks. So we surprised ourselves. You know, the people in Senegal say, okay, we're going to send you mangoes now. What can you say? You can't say no. You just have to say, okay, so, and then we have to find out how to be able to bring about the project here. So you have to use your creativity. So yeah, so this year We've already sold 500 kg and we are waiting for 1.5 tons next week.
Wow, so it does take a few dedicated people. I would like to ask you, Farah, what dedication, inspiration, commitment, maybe how you see it, like for you, now you want to empower people. What did it take you? So could you tell me about that?
So as I was saying earlier, when I became part of the youth leadership program, it kind of, I guess, lit a light within me, and that flame has been growing. So as I said before, I became more hungry for knowledge, and I wanted to open my mind to new possibilities. And funny enough, when you open your mind a bit and you open yourself to the possibilities out there, they just literally start pouring in. And as a result of that, I became very, very open to it. So I got invited to, the first thing I got invited to was emotional training in Italy. Amazing 7 days in Italy. We just covered personal ethical mastership, leadership styles, your emotional intelligence, how do you adapt to different environments, how do you communicate and represent yourself so you can be the leader that you want to be. Similar to what you said about Gandhi, how can you be the change that you see for yourself and you want the world to be. And as soon as that finished, Australia got invited to a UN summer school. And I remember, I'll share with you, the first thing I remember when I got to the airport, I was thinking, I'm going to spend 7 days with 120 people from 44 countries. What am I going to talk about? These are, young leaders, activists and so forth. But in my mind I was thinking, I'm there to learn as much as I can from them, and they're there to learn from me as well. But so straight away, I'll share this experience with you. I got to the airport, so I'm there looking for the group of people that we're going to go back to the university that we're going to stay with. And I was hungry. I was thinking, it's a long flight, I'm hungry, I'm tired, I want to get back to there and meet these people. And the first thing I see a group of people from across Europe, never seen them before. Just before I introduce myself, one of the girls goes, do you want a chocolate? Out of nowhere. I was surprised. I was thinking, where is this generosity coming from? Before I even say my name, before I introduce myself. And that kind of, the power of unity, it always starts with generosity and being open-minded, that's what I think. And straight away, who would have thought that person that gave me that chocolate, within that 7 days, we became really, really good friends. And I learned a lot. So I think, to answer your question, I guess inspiration, determination and commitment, it all comes from within. If you are determined about what you believe in, you put in the hours and you put in the sweat in it. So I would say, first start with yourself. Build the person that you want to be. Become the person that you want to become. Then you can work around the changes that you want around your community. Then you can worry about it. It's like 3 circles, I would say. Start with yourself, start with your family and friends, and then move on to the world. So if you build a strong character, then you could have all the fundamentals: determination, inspiration, commitment, loyalty, and then you could have the power to unite people and inspire them too. That's what I would say.
Thank you. Do we have a little more time? Or? Okay, so the last thing maybe that we could talk about, I was researching a little bit for preparing for the interview, and I fell upon an article that actually Ash forwarded to me, and that was a research study that was done by a group, the McCann Group, World McCann Group, and they did a study with 7,000 young people from all over the world, and they asked them what was most important for them in terms of looking for work and just developing themselves as individuals and being out there. And the 3 things that came back, one was authenticity. Second was, so authenticity, meaning wanting to see things as they are and wanting people to apply that. And justice, wanting to do what is right. And the last one, justice, authenticity, that's the last one I always forget. Community, yes, that's the need to unite and commune and connect. And I feel today, I wanted to actually mention this, that I've heard also this expression of being the generation of young people nowadays are called digital natives. I just heard that a few days back. And just thinking how much young people, they hang out together, you know, in groups and that, but you always see them with big headphones on there, like bigger than the head soon it's becoming. And you know, the iPhones are becoming rather like a small TV screen, and soon you put your head in it and you'll have a virtual life, you know, and you walk around and you won't even realize there's anyone next to you or near to you. And so what do you feel is needed for us to be able just to connect on a human level? Because I feel today we've been taken away from simplicity, authenticity, and just you know, like even family feelings of belonging to each other also, because although we are all different, we share the same space and the same problems we have to face. So
I think authenticity is a really big thing with young people, because, you know, I think we're sick and tired of being sold to. I personally am. You know, when we get new recruits coming through our business, often the first lesson in sales is the hardest lesson to learn, and that is to be yourself. You know, because people don't buy your product, people absolutely don't buy your service, they're buying you as the individual. And often when we go into a sales situation, you know, we first talk about the company, which they've got no interest in. You know, you stick a presentation up and you give someone 6 slides of what your organisation does, and you see them yawn, and then you talk about your product, in a very robotic way. So I think there's a lot to be said about authenticity, and I think as young people, we get that feeling really quickly as well. You know, we get somebody who is real in front of us, and I think we buy individuals much more, and I think a lot more young people now are so much more self-aware than they've ever been. You know, that they're not buying into the trappings of life, the conditionings anymore, you know, as much as it used to be, because times have changed, and therefore they want to see the change in their world. And the biggest thing that we came across in this environmental conference, funny enough, was we've got an older generation making decisions for us, and by the time we get to that point, it will be too late. You know, a genuine concern, genuine care about what is to come. And I think there's a big wave of young people just waking up to that now. You know, I think a lot of people wanting to explore, what do we do now? What do we do next? How can we work together? You know, but genuinely wanting to take that step forward and say, we can really start making a difference here, but not perhaps knowing the full process and how to find themselves first. And I think a big part of it is we get caught up in kind of the doing bit, don't we? And rather than stepping back and immersing ourselves in silence and trying to find ourselves a little bit. I remember the people I was drawn to the most when I was young were people who were set in their character, you know, the ones that were strong-willed, you know, quite scary individuals. You look at them and you quiver. But it's nice because you're drawn to that individual because they've got a sense of, you know, rootedness. You know, they're firm about themselves. They know themselves really well, and I think that's what we crave. We crave to know ourselves in a way that other people can relate to. So that's how I feel.
Very, very interesting. One thing I'll say, in terms of connecting with others and building a community, and I guess building a legacy as well, especially with the technological advances these days. One thing that I've seen that worked is through poetry, storytelling, and creative writing. I share an experience with you. Last November, we did a poetry event for young people. Young people in the media were considered as the lost generation, and they were labeled by politicians, journalists, educators, and academics. And one thing is, you never heard the stories from young people's perspective. What do they think about the current times of the economic? What do they see about their future? Are they really lost? These are the questions that we asked. And you'd be surprised, in 30 days we came up with this idea, and we only literally had literally 30 days to deliver the event itself. So we created 10 amazing young poets. Straight away they had a voice, they wanted to share their work, they wanted to be heard. And we got the venue, we had over 120 people, and the atmosphere in the actual building itself was amazing because all of a sudden there was a community. It wasn't young and old, it was one community. You had poets and young writers and artists sharing their creative work and expressing what they thought was going on with the society. And you had the audience asking questions and more curious. Some of the audience would say, can I go up? I want to share my thoughts as well. Can I recite a poem I've been working on? It was amazing, it was amazing. And I think the one thing you probably notice is I love telling stories. I think stories is a way to connect with people because we all have our individual, unique stories. And you always find more similarities between 2 or 3 people than you'd be surprised at their differences. And I think that's a good way to connect through people.
And many come to volunteer. And we very much encourage this because before doing an activity which brings you money, it is also good to do an activity where you are not receiving money because as Sheikh Ali says, you learn to have a profession of humanity before you engage in a profession of activity, a profession of activity, you know. And to be able to learn this profession of humanity is extremely important to engage in your own economic life. It develops you as a human being, it develops your human values, it develops the way you relate to people. Otherwise, we only use money to relate to people. You know, we have a certain way of speaking to this one because he has less money, we have a certain way to speak. You know, it's money that subtly governs the way we lead our lives, the way we are. So to go back to the earth, to this simplicity, to this authenticity, and I cannot wait to be back on the farm in December. You're just yourself, you cannot be anything else, and that is the best you can be. Yeah.
I think there's something you said about that, Soraya, just this aspect of giving, you know, and getting young people engaged to a charitable act, sort of thinking, because you find yourself through a process like that as well, don't you? You kind of do something for the love of it, you know, like it's like the London Olympics when people went there, a lot of them were volunteers. The experience that everyone got was completely different because it comes from a different space, doesn't it?
I think young people have a need for this because if you start a job, you're able to do this and that according to what the job asks you, but we are booming with creativity. We need to do more things, you know? So you cannot limit a young person, otherwise it's as if you're caging a small plant. It cannot be what it is, bloom into what it is. Yeah.
I would love to ask you more questions and to continue the dialogue. I think it's actually time to give a chance to you to ask questions and or add comments. You may not have a question, but you may want to add something onto what's been said. So there is a roaming mic. Selina is here. So if you'd like, please don't be shy. If you'd like to ask a question, indicate with your hand and Selina will come.
Just before we ask questions, I just want to have a massive round of applause for all of you. Thank you so much. And also for Myriam to be able to hold the whole conversation together. I think that was really wonderful. I mean, something that I personally took from what was actually spoken of was the commitment each of you had in your lives, no matter what was going on, to keep moving forward, to become what you wanted to become, and you're still doing that now. So I really respect that. No matter what was happening in your lives, you were still committed to move forward, irrespective of all the failures or, you know, the things that were not going so right due to whatever circumstances, you know. So it's a big, I mean, for me, hats off to all of you for that. And I think that's what I'm actually going to be really taking away for myself, is the fact that whatever I do for myself, I need to stick to it and be committed to it. That's only when I'm really going to want to be able to bring about change for myself. So thank you for that. Again, I'm starting to talk. So more importantly, I actually want you guys to fire away with the questions. If you have any questions you feel you can ask them, we've got about 15 to 20 minutes to do that before you have your break. 15.
Hi, I have a question for Ash. You spoke a lot about luck and opportunities that you had, but how did you actually create your own opportunities, and what did you do to create certain opportunities that hopefully you benefited from?
Yeah, sure. I think the seed of some of my biggest opportunities have come from personal realizations. So just knowing myself better has helped me in this process. And I think when, certainly in my early 20s, there's definitely been this tussle with identity. You know, there's this conditioning of how it should be, you know, in the world because everyone else is doing that, versus what I'm really feeling. You know, it's the heart versus the head. You know, and there's a whole process of ego bashing going on before I kind of began to slowly accept, you know, actually I can't be this NBA superstar. Not that that was ever in my dreams, but you know what I mean. Yeah, I'll struggle just to, you know, just to wash a plane. So I ended up kind of having, I suppose, moments of realization, recognizing what I'm good at. So I started my career, as an example, cleaning telephones. You know, I did an electronics and engineering degree. I had no interest in electronics. I landed on it because my dad told me to do it. Just like he told me to do my chemistry, physics and maths as A-levels, and I had no interest in any of that as well. But then going through, and I ended up in relationship management. So ultimately, everything that I've done has just naturally brought me to that space. Yes, some conscious decisions have been made, and they've been made because I've experienced things. And I think that's the biggest thing, you know, that I encourage young people to do now is experience. I think often we can get trapped in our thinking about what we want to do, but until we do stuff, we're never going to experience anything before we know what's right and what's wrong. So I think a huge part of our growth has to come from experience, and has to also come from a true, honest realization of what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. And this doesn't have to be job-related, task-related. You know, it can be just, you know, acknowledging that what I'm doing at the moment I'm not really good at, you know, and just being honest about it. I think honesty is the key, I feel. Yeah.
Any more questions? Comments? Anything you've kind of taken on board for yourself? There's one that, okay, after.
Just a short question. Just kind of touching on what all of you were talking about in terms of kind of being more than we can be, you know, and letting ourselves flourish. I find that, I mean, some of the examples that you were giving were quite, I mean, not far-fetched, it's not really the right word, but you were kind of, they were in specific kind of situations, you know. And so what is it, I mean, have you had any experiences of being that open, being that kind of adventurous with individuals, but in day-to-day activity, or in our job, or in something as mundane as you know, as life is now, as we condition our lives to be, you know. Because I think it's easy. I find it, for me personally, I find it easy to be kind of open and easy to flourish when I'm in a situation where that is encouraged. But when I'm actually living and working and eating and doing what I do daily, how is it that I mean, what is your experience of that? I was quite like to hear your experience within that, and how do I keep up the same level of freedom and adventure and, you know, and potential, you know, finding my potential in the mundane things, you know.
Well, if I can talk from my experience, I'll talk what I'm currently living now. I stopped doing maths when I was 16, so accounting with it. Now with this project, I'm having to get a sense of what finances really are. And it's a big challenge for me. I hate figures. I hate anything to do with calculating or accounting. But with the project, it's something that I'm having to do. And for me, it's something, if I think about it, I can even start to cry. But, you know, it's something like this, that it's something that frightened me. I have to keep the books, you know, to get a sense of, to be responsible financially, like, because before someone else was doing it, and I was just going on the markets and, you know, doing the flyers, doing everything that I wanted to do, designing them. But this year is a bit different. Everything came down to just a small group of people. So we had to multitask, we had to do the marketing, to do the com, to do the Facebook, to do the website, to do the accounting, to go on the market and sell, to come down at the end of the day and sort the language, to do everything. And yeah, it can be a challenge as accounting, and I understand what you mean day-to-day living. Like, very often we speak to people who say, yeah, I would like to live life like this, you know, but you know, I have to live, and I have to eat, and I have to work, I need to have a job. Well, I think everything is about a choice, and with your level of consciousness, you're able to be more conscious in the choices that you make. Because I can say, oh, I can't participate in the mango campaign because I have a job. But before I wouldn't realize that it was my choice to stick with the job and to not be with the mango campaign. But now I choose to leave the job and be with the mango campaign. So I think it gradually evolves, and we do lots of workshops on the sense of security that we look for in life. Everything is planned to keep our lives very secure, very contained, you know, with a job. It's very good for a while, but at some point, and we've seen it in the lives of the peacemakers that we have studied, they just have to get out of it. You know, they just have to break free. That's what happened with Gandhi when he was thrown on the platform in South Africa off the train, even though he was dressed for first class as a British, and he was thrown out like a vulgar coolie, he says in his autobiography. That's what happened with Mother Teresa when she left the comfort of the church and went in the streets of Calcutta. She was even excommunicated for this. But she was going to find Jesus there. And Gandhi found something else on this platform. So there comes a point in life, and this is what we call the awakening shock. In all of our lives, it can be dramatic or it can be very subtle, but it just makes us rethink everything and say, no, I have to make a move, I have to do something, and it will cost me something. It cannot cost me nothing, because everything that you want in life, you pay for it. So even if I want a style of life, I need to pay for it. It has a cost. But yeah, so I think it's little by little, everyday courage.
Yeah. I think you raising that question, that means you're consciously aware of your situation. So therefore you have the options to make a change. I would also say is try and see everything that you do, even the mundane, try and see a positive aspect of that. You'd be surprised what you see from that situation. And also try out, from what I've learned from experiences, keep a good balance between your personal life and your work life. And that'll give you an opportunity to see where you can explore the interesting and adventurous parts of your life that you'd like to do. But always I'll say, try and the mundane, the things that you do repetitive. There's a reason why you do it repetitive. And there is some good in it, there is some positivity in that. But if you're consciously asking these questions, that means you consciously want to make a change. So you have the option to do it. If you weren't aware, if you're blindly doing the same thing, it'd be a different story. So you've definitely got the opportunity. You can go out there and do the things that you want to do, but just keep a balance of what's important to you, I'll say.
Just to expand on that, I think I've worked with a lot of things where you think about something, you want to do something, you have all these ideas, and people are telling you, with your power of the mind, you can change things, and it's all very much in your head. And I think you can have these thoughts about, how I'm in a situation and I have this vision of how I want to be in the future or in the near future. But it's really also having that living right now and really accepting your situation now. I think that's the first thing, because you can sort of try and block away and think, well, I want to be there and now doesn't count. But every moment counts that you're living in, to sort of believe that and trust in yourself that what you've already made the decision to do that's led you here has been the right decision, and it's not that you're living something that's wrong now and in the future will be better. Everything that you've done is right up till now, and you're on a journey, and it's not to do with, oh, I'm not in the right place at the moment. You're always in the right place because you're on your own journey. So I think just to believe in yourself and to sort of trust yourself that you're you are you, and you have made the right decisions, and to trust your whole self, basically.
I totally agree with you there. One thing I would say is 100%, you have to believe in yourself. And if you don't believe yourself, what will happen is you're going to attract people that will question what you're doing. And what happens is when they question, it raises more questions, and it becomes self-doubt. First step is believing in yourself. And trust me, when it comes to following your passion and what you want to do in life, there is no easy way out to get to where you want to be, but it's a very rewarding journey. If you stick through it, it'll be amazing. And like you said as well, it's not just seeing the future and trying to get there quickly. It's about each step, each journey that you take. Some will be good and bad, but each one of them is important. Because in the end, when you get to the place that you want to be, when you look back, it'll be amazing. You look back and say, you know what, all the dots led me to this path. The good and bad, and I'm grateful for it. So believe in yourself. I totally agree with you. That's the first step.
I just kind of want to reiterate the points that the last two speakers made, because I can really relate to that feeling of being quite entrapped and wanting to break free, as Soraya was saying. So it's kind of, it's not really a question, but just, as I said, building on what was said before about how you really have the courage to do that. And I think in some ways it's kind of opening your eyes to the opportunity. For instance, I live in Easton, which is just up the road, and I drive by the centre every single day, and for the past maybe 5 years I've said, I need to go in there, I need to see what it's about. And recently I've sort of had a break from my boyfriend of 9 years, and I've kind of got into a new job, which is very stressful. And I don't know, it just feels like a time of transformation. So I just thought, I'm going to come along and actually do it one day. So I'm here, and the messages that you guys have talked about and the kind of energy that I'm feeling is so in tune with kind of what I needed. And I feel like sometimes things are right there before your eyes, and you just kind of have to kind of go for it. And once you put that request almost out into the universe, I think things do start coming. I think Farah, you were saying that once you opened yourself up, the things started flooding through, and you kind of have to trust that that will happen, although sometimes it takes a bit of time. But yeah, so I just wanted to make that point.
These moments of crisis are very uncomfortable, but are actually what makes us, aren't they, Ash? It's the moment of enlightenment, if we can call it, but we despise it because it's uncomfortable, and we moan about it and we want to push it away. But it's really,
The difference between having a structure and then going with the flow, isn't it? It's just like different worlds.
Yeah, definitely.
Great.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time. Another round of applause, please, for
the aim that everyone came here for one reason, and it was nice to be in the room with people and be yourself, and actually be encouraged to be yourself and let go of all the negativity that we face on our daily lives.
Well, I came with a friend who had come to a previous conference that you had done, not knowing what I was walking into at all, and it was really amazing to have the panel. That was a real highlight for me, to really see the journeys of 3 other lives that have come to a sense of wholeness within themselves, and to know that we can all reach that ourselves. Just being surrounded by all like-minded people, and just to be able to be in yourself in the sense is really satisfactory. So I can walk away feeling really,
Powerful.
good. Yeah, definitely.
Many different experiences, lots of different emotions, lots of other people's emotions, which is really helpful to pick up on, sort of remembering that other people in the world experience the same things, and just learning from their responses to it.
What did you like most about this?
I like most listening to other people that were speaking on stage about their history and how they'd arrived here today. So that benefited me most, and I enjoyed most.
The experience was insightful, it was empowering, it was short and sweet, which is really good. The workshop was really good. I think it was a good balance of knowing other people and actually having that self-reflective kind of moment as well. I enjoyed that as well, and the talks with the panel was quite insightful as well, which was really enjoyable.